Добрий день, колеги.
Good afternoon, colleagues. The Ukrainian Crisis Media Center continues work. The topic of our next briefing, who is actually slowing down the law on the public broadcast in Ukraine.
And I introduce our speakers, Andrei Shevchenko's Media and Oksana Romanyuk, Institute of Public Information. The floor is yours. Good morning, dear colleagues. We decided to call this press conference today because tomorrow the Parliament, Verkhovna Rada, will have second reading of 1357 draft law on the public broadcasting. That draft law was developed under with the involvement of all the deputies of different factions, and it is aimed at introduction of the mechanism of public broadcasting. Last year on 17th April, a law on public broadcasting was adopted. International experts understood this as a frame law, and this law does not have any provisions of how to implement this or what steps should be exercised. So we tried to understand what changes could be introduced, like audit, inventarization, inventory, and reformation. This is the kickoff or startup of a public broadcasting process. This mechanism should be started, and it is very important for the country being in a state of war. And we do not have any broadcaster that could provide for proper standards of broadcasting, who could have the special trust. And we put everything in an enormous table, which provides for changes or envisages changes for the ownership rights, and the country must have control over the property and land. The changes envisages proper broadcasting in digital format and in FM range, as well as independent editorial policy and the maximum independence of editorial board. The changes envisage to change the supervisory board activities, because in practice we faced certain problems, and the supervisory board should be set up by public organizations, and the number of public organization representatives will be bigger than the number of representatives of parliaments. We expect from parliament that it will hear or will listen to the recommendation of European experts and understand that the public broadcasting must be created in Ukraine as soon as possible. I give floor to my colleagues for more details. My name is Andrei Shevchenko, and I was a People Deputy of Verkhovna Rada of 5, 6, and 7 convocation, and I represent the platform for reforms. I know that tonight not only developers of this draft law, but many people, they will not sleep tonight, because this is a very important moment for our civil society. It is very important for all of our international friends, and to remind you that public broadcasting is a part of Ukraine-EU association agreement agenda. So this is one of the key or milestone, keystone for the Parliament of 8 convocation, and this Parliament has a chance to finalize this work, to finalize it in a good intentions. So this is one of the obligations of the coalitions. 5 factions that are comprised into coalition, they undertook to adopt this document. So we invite everybody to cast their votes for this 1357 draft law. all the 5 factions, they claim that they are ready and they will vote for this law, and hopefully the factions that are hesitating, they will do this step and they will cast their votes for this draft law. And to remind you once again, after this law is adopted, we would have to start the real introduction of these public broadcasting steps. So we encourage our deputies to stick to their obligations actually, and to vote for this law, for this public broadcaster to start working immediately and with a good quality. Thank you. In fact, we are now evolutioning, and the adoption of the public broadcasting law, this is one of the fixed or milestone stage at this evolution towards European integration. If this law would not be adopted, it will be de facto and de jure violation of the association steps to EU, because everything by sea reporters without borders, all the reporting structures, they are watching this voting very closely, and everybody is expecting if this reform go on starting from tomorrow, and through this prism everybody will evaluate the level of development of civil society in Ukraine, in democratic society in Ukraine. This draft law has been passed through an expert evaluation of the public of the Parliament Assembly of Council of Europe, and their conclusions said that this law is in line with European standards, and this law is really on demand in Ukraine. That's why I appeal to the public deputies of Ukraine to understand the meaning, to understand the importance of this law, and all the international community is expecting that this law is adopted. They're expecting that this is the start of reform. So please vote for 1357th draft law, and from our side we are ready to watch this process, to support this with the actions of direct power in order to have lobbying efforts or to support and facilitate the adoption of this draft law. Natalia Lygachova, please. Good morning. Once again, I would like to have a couple of words to support Oksana and to make corrections that it will not only be the media reform, it will be a key reform for the public, for the civil society, and for the country. Even if if the first law would have been adopted on the public broadcasting, many things would not have happened in this country. Probably Yanukovych was not elected. Probably the second Maidan would have not been that needed, etc. Why? Because we have certain political forces and public organizations are represented in this process. This law gives room for proper information, independent information. By the way, we are speaking as well about spending of taxpayers' money, and if this broadcaster, public broadcaster, could play the counterweight against the private broadcasters. By the way, in Germany this is the case, where the public broadcasters have more weight versus the private channels. So in that case, the channels, private channels, would have not had any opportunity to broadcast lies. This is first. Secondly, today Ukraine is in the focus of the European attention, and I would like to say it in the plain words stop lying to Europe, because a lot of money have been spent by European foundations, European experts, European states for this public broadcasting reform to be started in Ukraine, and for the funds to be allocated first of all to public rather than private organizations, because everybody claims that yes, it's next day we will have public broadcasting, but after that the parliament and via presidential administration they stopped this process several times. So we should clearly say we are pro this public broadcasting or against it. In the second case, we will not have any public broadcasting anymore. And finally, today we have a lot of disclaimers, or we have a lot of complaints that somebody would like to privatize something, etc., etc. And we have the last battle now. And many people, they start saying that oblast broadcasters, they will be deprived, etc., etc. But let us be candid. Any reform will tame certain interests of certain groups. Secondly, let us be candid again. The public TV and radio broadcasters, they served power circles. It was pro-Kuchma, pro-Yushchenko, pro-Yanukovych broadcasting. They violated my rights as the consumer of information. They violated rights of all the taxpayers that paid money to support those companies. They did not provide us with true and comprehensive information. Why interests of certain people, groups of people, higher than the rights of all the other people of our society? Again, in this draft law, many things have already been taken into account. Nobody would like to cut everything or smash everything, and the companies under issue, they will not be liquidated, they will be modernized, they will be reformed, and it will bring good for all the people that are qualified enough and experienced enough to create the proper high quality broadcasting product. So I believe that first of all we are speaking about the responsibility in this process of the ruling party, Petro Poroshenko party, and we understand that in certain time ago Petro Poroshenko had not very favorable story related to the public broadcasting. Now his faction and has a case. Okay.
Thank you, colleagues. Are there any questions? The question from the CMC. You wrote such a scenario that if they created the public broadcasting TV when you were talking about that, maybe we wouldn't have had to go through what we are living through now. Can we say that now the creation of the public TV is a necessary prerequisite under the difficult circumstances we are living through to avoid some kind of violation of the human rights of the citizens? Well, I hope that my colleagues will support me, of course. The more so that we have a very strong team of reformers as a national TV committee, and if we are going to launch now a normal legislative economic mechanism in order to make it happen, and once again emphasize it's very important to happen the level of the local regional TV companies. In this case, they will stop to be just to serve the local authorities, which is absolutely dangerous. We know what the regional TV companies did in the east of Ukraine, which is now the territory of war, how they actually covered the news. If they are going to proceed from the interests of the society, not those who control them now, then we win support, substantial support. Yesterday I discussed that issue with my colleagues and I said, why is such a resistance on the part of many different circles? Well, this is not going to happen just overnight. They say, they understand that this is going to reconstruct the whole information space. Yes, it will, but only in the case when the country, when the state is ready to provide the normal financial support. But I believe a lot of Western donors will participate in that. We not only need the public broadcasting, let's be honest. Under Yushchenko rule, there were two centers of power, Tymoshenko and Yushchenko. The first national TV channel provided rather an objective, unbiased news, but the state did nothing in order to modernize the channel and the whole, so that it could come up with some quality product, competitive with the commercial broadcasters, and nothing was to reform the original TV companies. If we unite everything and with the necessary financial support, on the other hand, the powerful national council, which will provide or ensure the pluralistic and trustworthy information on TV channels, this will change the whole information space in the country. How you evaluate the position of the first national channel today on this specific issue? Well, in fact, I'm a member of the working group for reforming the public broadcasting, and this group gathers almost every week. We have about 50 subgroups, and we work with the national channel just to come up with this joint structure, what would be the cooperation between Kyiv and other cities in this specific area. And this is the issue for the future reform regarding the personnel, etc., etc. But I might say that today we are living through a unique moment. There are experts who deal with this. There is a special tip in the National TV Channel Committee. They would like some transformation change. They would like to change something, And we have a small number of deputies who, for this or another reason, do not believe that this draft law is really necessary to do expedient today. And I might say that today we have a more reasonable and favorable moment to do something now. I would like to supplement what Natalia said. Of course, there will some, let's say, some people will be fired, but if you see at this the National TV Committee, how they just eat up these salaries, and what kind of development we can say when this money just being eaten up, so to say. In order to change this system, make it vital, we need to have a reasonable approach. Nobody is going just to wave the sabers or the swords, but we have to provide whatever changes are necessary to make this reform happen. If I properly understood you, there is no resistance on the part of the National TV Committee, but everything depends on the group of deputies, which for this or another reason or interest try to resist those changes. What kind of, do you know who is really against in the parliamentary? Most interesting that are the majority deputies. Judging by our talks behind the scenes in the parliament. Interests are different. Somebody is afraid that they will become the subject of bitter criticism, or they will be deprived of the possibility to launch some kind of propaganda campaign. But in fact, this fear, if you're talking about the fear, is a kind of exaggerated, because on the local level we have the attention toward the politicians, and it's going to stay there. They have to be interested that they are invited to those local channels, and if there are some standards and they are invited, that means that this specific politician is doing something good. So this is again about this philosophical issue, whether the bottle is half empty or half filled, full. And again, we have to protect our own house in the moment of inundation, instead of just creating some kind of the dam to defend or to protect the whole village. Thank you very much. We hope that we'll have another chance to be here and share with you the information. Thank you very much.